Hello, and welcome to the Underworld podcast, a show hosted by two journalists who have reported on this sort of stuff all over the world and now bring you a weekly show on international organized crime from here, from there, from the past, from the present, from the future, whatever you guys want to know. I am Danny Gold. I am joined as always by handsome Englishman Sean Williams in Buenos Aires. And this week you guys may have noticed there's no cold open. This is like our show we call Stashhouse that we do approximately every 6 to 8 weeks when we've got to run out of ideas or don't want to sit down and write a full episode. It's a special occasion where we run through the craziest international organized crime stories out there right now. Sean, what do you have to say for yourself?
I'm just sorry generally about everything that I've done and do and will do. So apologies to everyone for that. But should we jump into organized crime? There's people who've done worse things than me. Yeah. Some
real quick. Patreon.com/Underworld Podcast for bonus episodes. Underworldpod.com for merch and all that. You can email us at the underworldpodcast@gmail.com. You can also sign up on Spotify or on iTunes. Okay, first up, a place that is near and dear to my heart, the Central African Republic. I think I made my first big documentary there when the Civil War broke out in December of 2013, and still one of the craziest places and situations I've ever been in. And I was with the legendary war photographer Robert King. If you haven't seen the movie about his life, I think you can get it on iTunes, watch it, and then imagine sharing a hotel room with him for 2 weeks during the outbreak of a civil war in one of the poorest countries on earth.
Oh, heaven. In hell. Actually, I went back and watched a few of those videos from your trip, and kudos, man. That's great work. I was just thinking how uniquely mad that part of the world is. I'd just love to do something again there soon. But for now, after Cuba, I'm going to spend like 6 to 9 months just looking up stories about kite flyers and guys who make model railways in their homes. So no more of that for me.
Well, maybe you could do this story, but you probably would get killed doing it. Here's the Wall Street Journal with one of those headlines that like went straight into my veins and the Stashhouse folder. Quote, Wagner's remnants are running an opioid empire in the center of Africa. I mean... buddy, like this is for me.
Bullseye.
Yeah, bullseye, right? Quick Wagner speedrun. If you guys don't remember all the craziness with them the last few years or didn't listen to our full episode on them, which must have been a few years ago by now, right?
A few.
Yeah. They are a diabolical Russian mercenary outfit that basically functions as an apparatus of the Russian state, except it gives them plausible deniability, which is good because they do things like killing people with sledgehammers and filming it, amongst others. They're active in Ukraine, the Middle East, Africa. They do the whole like massacre, rape, pillage, exploit natural resources sort of thing. And they're pretty good at those things. Yevgeny Prigozhin is the founder and leader. He's a Russian ex-con who did about 9 years for robbery, got out in 1990, sold hot dogs, which, I support selling hot dogs, but not everything else that he does. He worked his way up to running the restaurant where Putin entertained visiting heads of state, became Putin's chef, ran a troll farm, then owned the most famous private army on earth. There's a little bit more in the career ladder there, but you guys can listen to the episode for the full rundown.
Yeah, it's a great show. And truly, I mean, that is one of the greatest character arcs ever. I mean, just think, next time a waiter serves you one of those little tiny biscuits with salmon on top at a party, that could be the next Prigozhin, the next mass murderer.
Look up his photo if you guys don't know what he looks like. I mean, this guy looks the part. Prigozhin, though, is dead because back in June of 2023, he mutinies. I think he was in he was either in the regions of Ukraine Russia had taken or just outside them. Anyway, he marches on Moscow in like a convoy, stops, gets convinced to take a deal, and then 2 months later, I think to the day, his plane falls out of the sky mysteriously.
Whoops.
No leads, moving on. I guess that's an upgrade from being pushed out of or falling out of a window. The Kremlin folds the Wagner Empire into their Africa Corps under the Defense Ministry, a state basically kind of like, embracing and nationalizing their brutal militia. That was basically the state anyway. So yeah, that's what happens with Wagner. Now, the flagship Wagner op in Africa is in the Central African Republic. I don't know why it's called that by the journal. It might be because it was the first one there, but I know they've been super active in Libya and Mali and all that. So not really sure what they mean by that. I assume it's because they were the first stop that was in Africa. But if you guys have watched The Agency, which if you haven't, do it. I mean, I just binged the last 2 weeks. It's fantastic. That plot line in season 2 is based on Wagner, but it kind of sounds like it's based on the Wagner remnants, which we're going to talk about. I think they call it Valhalla in the show. Again, if you haven't watched it, watch it. There's a lot of like fake BS spy thrillers out there, especially with the CIA. The Agency is not like that. It's so incredibly good. I can't get over it.
Did the Agency come first and then you came across this, or was it the other way around? They just came at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, I was started watching it, and then this story popped up, but I was aware of Wagner's operations in the Central African Republic. They're just, whoever the writers are just really on it when it comes to geopolitics and international affairs, because that's a good storyline. Now, Wagner arrives in CAR in 2018 under a security deal with the president of the country to provide security. You know, there's been a decade-plus civil war there, hundreds of thousands dead, more starving, one of the poorest countries in the world, one of the most anarchic. And that is before the war. Nobody really cares, so you probably don't know about it. Go watch my old Vice News doc on it. I think it was just called War in the Central African Republic. I was younger and had a lot more hope in my eyes, despite being in the middle of a civil war. In July of 2018, 3 Russian journalists who'd flown down to make a documentary about Wagner are ambushed and killed on a road I think, outside the capital there. Officially, it's a botched robbery. Independent investigators dispute that. Still unsolved. In 2021, there's a big rebel push against the president. Wagner fights alongside some UN peacekeepers, strangely enough, to beat it back. By that October, 5 UN expert bodies are documenting Wagner's alleged summary executions, torture, disappearances, and rape. For that rescue, though, Wagner gets handed the country pretty much. The main industrial gold mine, a diamond operation, a timber concession of like 2,000 square kilometers, radio station, and consumer brands, which I love. I mean, they're brewing a beer there, and they've a spirit, an alcohol called Wa Na Wa, which I don't even know what a Central African moonshine tastes like, but I imagine it does make you go blind.
Yes.
So this story just comes out, per the journal, up to 500 Wagner holdovers, meaning men who never really signed on to the whole, new Wagner nationalized look, in a lawless country where no one can do anything to them. They hold a fiefdom on the upper Ubangi River, beyond the reach of local law enforcement, or the paper says Moscow itself. And really, CAR is pretty lawless in general. There are still warlords in parts of it. I don't know if you guys remember Joseph Kony, right? He was hanging out there for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
So these former Wagner guys are essentially a warlord op. And the thing funding them is tramadol, the synthetic opioid painkiller prescription drug. But apparently, at high doses, they claim it can give something like, it can give the user energy. And across West and Central Africa, they call it the poor man's cocaine.
This is like echoes of the KMT in Myanmar, right? It's like what they call them, the Lost Boys back in the 50s or whatever. But is this stuff similar to Kush? I mean, we're going to talk about Kush a tiny bit more in this episode, but Kush is kind of like a synthetic thing as well, right?
But it's like a made up, thrown together drug, right? Tramadol is a real thing that gets prescribed in the US. Like it's quite popular, The pill thing in Burma is interesting because all the generics, I think, are made there. And I know these guys who did wild NGO stuff in Burma when I was there. And they used to talk about the Burmese borderlands, which are lawless places. I mean, you've been to a few of them. But the borderlands specifically near India that are just overwhelmed with prescription pills made there.
Yeah.
Just everyone cracked out, popping pills, like a SoundCloud rapper in 2018. It's supposed to be incredibly dark.
I heard stories that they were like
chained up in all sorts of like insane markets. I don't know, dude, wild stuff.
Yeah, I heard that there's like entire parts of the border there where it's just like pits full of blister packs and stuff like this. Like it just looks like a silvery lake or some shit. It sounds mad, man.
There's still places in the world like that, and 2 of them are the Central African Republic and the Burmese borderlands, but they're few and far between. How it works with those pills are they are legally manufactured in India, exported legally to firms in the Democratic Republic of Congo, repackaged in Kinshasa, the capital it is the capital, right? Kinshasa, major city, barged up to the river town of Zongo, which is, gets to CAR borders Congo. And then it's run across that river into the Central African Republic.
Zongo, Congo. That's where it's coming from. Yeah,
that is correct, Sean. Now, the customer base is the darkest part. You got miners in Wagner's gold mines taking it to work longer hours. A former Wagner associate told the Journal they supplied to the elite presidential guard and to a pro-government youth militia called the Sharks, who patrol Bangui, the capital, and they basically beat up opposition supporters. And commanders handed out before battle. Here's Natalia Dukan, a researcher with the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, quote, "In battlefield context, tramadol is being taken in massive doses, and then fear vanishes and agitation surges as combatants enter a pharmacological trance."
So you're saying that this might be a difficult one to report? This sounds like
it's a difficult country to report in, and you're going to have a healthy amount of protection there. It'd be like going to Somalia. We're going to want like probably a convoy of 10 or 15 gunmen you pay $25 a day to. And you really just hope that they really want that $25 and not more for selling you to Wagner, which is a thing that could potentially happen. So I am a little confused about this. I mean, these guys are basically a breakaway faction of Wagner, not officially Wagner, because I honestly wouldn't understand it if they were Wagner, because Wagner makes a ton of money. I think they mine at least $180 million a year, not to mention the other stuff. And the Journal quotes that some analyst saying Wagner's effectively captured the state, because this doesn't seem like selling cheap generic drugs in an incredibly poor African country does not, by my estimate, especially a country this small, seem like you can make that much money selling these pills, which I'm sure is super, super cheap. I mean, even if you make them for 10 cents and you're selling, I don't know, millions for 20 cents profit, is that much money, Sean? What's the math on that?
Still peanuts, isn't it? I mean, how many people live in the CAR?
It might be tens of millions, but either way, not that many. It's a small country, so I don't know how many pills they're actually selling. I guess you could make some money, but for Wagner, maybe not. But for a Wagner breakaway faction, I guess it makes sense. Also, did not know tramadol smuggling was a thing, and that it was huge in Africa. The UN's drug office says more than 90% of all tramadol seized worldwide over a recent 5-year stretch was seized in Africa, predominantly West Africa. Their regional director once put it this way: tramadol is regularly found in the pockets of suspects arrested for terrorism in the Sahel. 600,000 pills headed for Boko Haram got seized. 3 million turned up in Niger in boxes with UN logos on them. And in 2017, Italian police pulled 37 million tramadol pills shipped from India off a boat there, $75 million worth, bound for Libya. An investigator said the Islamic State. So maybe there is money in there, and I'm just wrong. Even more gnarly, Wagner is apparently now entering Sudan, Darfur actually, into the completely ignored and brutal civil war there. These are the joys of a multipolar world, Sean.
Yeah, I do not want to meet some janjaweed 12-year-old off his face on tramadol. No. That would not be much fun. But I mean, there's so much consumer choice, really great stuff. And I mean, if we're talking CAR, what are your views on that movie, The Ambassador? Because I found it really interesting.
Is that the one with the Dutch guy who pretends to be a
he gets like an honorary diplomatic pass,
and he gets all the briberies and all that? I never saw it. I do feel like there was some controversy about it, and I typically just don't trust documentary makers at this point in my career, and like especially stuff like that can just be so finagled. Did he get killed, or he got someone killed, or someone got killed?
One of the guys was a French mercenary in the movie, and he gets killed like a week after they film.
Yeah,
but they're all after these like diplomatic passes, right?
Yeah,
I think
those guys were shady as hell anyway, so he could have got killed for different reasons. And maybe it was good. This was 10 years ago. So I don't have 12 years ago. I don't have a good recollection of it. I do admire filmmakers who take those risks, but like I'm just so skeptical of documentaries in general these days. Anyway, let's keep it going. More skeptical of podcasts, except for this one.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we are the only one. My first story today comes from back home in the beautiful, perfect UK, where a pretty crazy case has just wrapped up surrounding a teenage Norwegian hitman, Swedish Iran-backed gangsters, and the race against time to stop him killing his intended target in a northern English town.
We've done a few episodes on this sort of stuff, right? The Iran-backed gangsters in Europe, Scandinavian hitman. I think we had, a two-parter on Swedish gang wars that covered this maybe last year?
Yeah. I was going to say people should definitely be listening to those shows. But before we get into that topic, this one, it's really wild. It's really, really crazy. And it begins in the oil-rich Norwegian city of Stavanger, where Johannes Natland is born in 2006 to a comfortable family, both parents journalists, which is a massive red flag, promising young footballer too.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that's more of a red flag for parents is if they're both either child psychologists or crackheads.
Yeah. I mean, similar to journalists, both of those things, but yeah, not good. But age 13, surprisingly, Natland starts taking drugs and soon he's getting high, quote, pretty much every day, according to his own testimony. He drops out of school, grows paranoid that his parents are trying to kill him, journalists maybe, and winds up in a psych unit. From there, Natland spends some time in what he calls a home for problem children, where he meets another kid who recruits him to a group called the Foxtrot Network. And yes, if that rings a bell, congratulations. You listen to this show at least almost as much as you should. Like Danny just mentioned, we did a 2-parter on Foxtrot back in December. And it is a gang set up by a shadowy dealer called Rawa Majid, aka the Kurdish Fox, at the center of a shocking wave of narco violence all over Sweden. Since the end of the 2010s, Foxtrot has emerged as the dominant drug gang in Sweden, of which there are, well, literally tons. There's the Bro Network, Dahlen Network, Norsberg Network, Tenster Network, Husby Hyenas, slightly better, 24K, and the Roomba Network, which I think that's another big one, right? The Roomba, if I remember that show correctly. Mm-hmm. Definitely check out Danny's 2-parter there. It gets deep into this stuff and the Kurdish Fox's deadly rivalry with another gangster named Strawberry. By the 2020s, cops in Sweden estimate there are 200-ish gangs there and 62,000 people involved in some capacity. And that is in a country which has barely more than, just under 11 million people, which is pretty crazy. Bombs, blockades in the cities, assassination. Oh, and Foxtrot is allegedly backed by the Iranian regime and therefore sanctioned by US and UK authorities.
Yeah, I mean, they're not like originally backed, right? They're sort of hired by, while also kind of extorted by, because the leaders have fled there and need their protection. But I'm sure they're also having fun doing what they're doing.
Yeah, it's a little bit complicated. And
by what they're doing, I meant like attacking synagogues and also killing Iranian dissidents across Europe.
Yeah, all that great stuff that's been going on for some time all over the world. And the Foxtrot Network, so it gets big by, I guess, just like stepping up the county line system that the UK is so great at. And it pioneers the use of teenage hitmen across Scandinavia, especially something that Europol calls violence as a service, which if you work in tech, you will get the reference. The sort of things that terrible men with gilets say a lot. Natland is going to become the latest in this disturbing new trend when the guy he meets in his halfway house, who goes by the name Unknown Hustler on the messaging app Signal, recruits him into Foxtrot. So this is actually a story about Signal and not, as I assumed, EncroChat, which is where like 99% of all crime stories are coming out of in Europe. On March 15, 2025, Unknown Hustler then forwards Natland a message from a Foxtrot leader, quote, killing in England, 270K, have transport ready out of the country, will smuggle assassin out of the country, the police will be paid to look the other way, nothing can go wrong.
Look, guys, we don't have a lot of wisdom to impart, me and Sean. We've made a lot of poor decisions in our lives, you know?
Yes.
You're not going to learn much from us in this show when it comes to good decisions. But a good rule of thumb, anytime someone asks you to do something highly illegal and says nothing can go wrong, that's when you turn down the job.
Yes, correct.
You go in a different direction.
I think that's what you said to me 6 years ago as well, right? When we were talking about this.
Starting a podcast. Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. And here we are. Having fun. 270,000 Norwegian kroner, by the way. That's around 28 grand US, which, not bad for a teenager. Natland is then added to a signal group called Assassin EU. Guys, come on. With 2 Foxtrot guys, Generalen, which means the general, and Agent 47. And Natland asked them, who is to be killed? Very good. Very classic English there, although maybe you spoke in Norwegian. I don't know. Anyway, the general, just 17 years old. This guy is deep into the life, tied to a spate of arson attacks and 2 murders in Norway, one of which killed the wrong guy, but he still calls it a success. The general gets arrested for these murders in Norway, and at trial, he says that his mentor in Foxtrot is Agent 47, which I guess is like a hitman reference. Wasn't he something like that? I don't know. Anyway, cops believe Agent 47 is actually Ali Shabab Ahmed, a vet at the ripe old age of 22, who was arrested in the Iraqi city of Sulaymaniyah last December, is awaiting extradition, and is supposedly very close to the Kurdish Fox. I don't know much about Iraq. You do. Sulaymaniyah is like a Kurdish Shia city, is it? It's like different to the rest of the country. I don't know.
Kurdish. It's Kurdish. It's Kurdish. No, it's the Kurdish are overwhelmingly Sunni, but it's close to the border with Iran, so there's a lot of Iranian influence there.
Okay. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense given what we just said.
You've got weight loss goals, and this summer it's time to actually hit them. Weight Loss by Hims is designed to support you every step of the way, and now Hims offers access to an affordable range of FDA-approved GLP-1 medications, including the Wegovy pill and the Wegovy pen, so you can lose the weight and keep it off. With Wegovy at Hims, lose up to 20% of your body weight when combined with diet and exercise. It helps you regulate your appetite, eat less, and keep weight off. Plus, Wegovy is the first ever GLP-1 pill for weight loss, so there are no needles needed. Through Hims, everything happens online. You'll connect with a licensed provider who will determine if treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is delivered right to your door. No insurance necessary, and it doesn't stop there. Hims makes hitting your goals seamless by offering access to 24/7 messaging with your care team and in-app lifestyle nutrition support like recipes, meal plans, fitness videos, sleep content, and more. Ready to reach your goals? Visit hims.com/underworld to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's HIMS.com/underworld. Hims.com/underworld. Weight Loss by Hims is not available in all 50 states. Wegovy is the registered trademark of Novo Nordisk A/S. To get started and learn more, including important safety information, Wegovy clinical study information, and restrictions, visit hims.com.
Yeah, again, dig into Danny's two-parter for more on that bit of the story and the Kurdish and Iranian connection to all of this, because it's obviously crazy. Anyway, on March 16 last year, so the day after his first contact with the assassin EU group, also Norway's not in the EU, guys, sort it out. Agent 47 books Johannes Natland a one-way ticket from Stavanger to Manchester. Actually, neither is Sweden. What are these people talking about? Why the one-way ticket? I don't get it. I guess they told this guy they were going to get him out and that nothing could go wrong, so he trusts them. But the following day, he flies. Customs officers in the UK, in Manchester, then detain and question him because of the one-way thing. He's also traveling on an emergency passport because his one was expired, and he has barely any cash or a hotel booking. The agents then refuse Natland official entry, but he gets in anyway because the next flight back to Stavanger isn't for 3 days. That is, sort it out, guys. Anyway, the hit is on. Agent 47 and a Foxtrot logistics guy with the username 1. That, by the way, that's a better name. Don't call yourself the General and be an assassin EU. Just use numbers. This guy, 1, and Agent 47, they tell Natland to get a taxi 30 miles from Manchester to the town of Huddersfield, where he's sent to a pile of cash hidden under some trash near the entrance to a footpath tunnel, which I've tried to find for years, and all I found were piles of pornography. Natland then checks into a 3-star hotel on the edge of town, paying in cash, obviously, and he takes another taxi to some woodland where 1, the logistics guy, has left him a semi-automatic pistol, a revolver, and some ammo. When he gets back to the hotel room, Natland can't resist then sending his pals photos of him on the hotel bed with the guns and the money. What do we tell you?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's fun to floss, but not fun to go to prison or get murdered because of your IG photos.
Nah, you're going to be flossing for many more years, son. It's quite funny, actually. So this is just his down payment. It's not a lot of money. So he's just kind of carefully placed sort of 25 to 30, 10 and 20 pound notes on the sheets. It kind of looks like an art project. It's only a few hundred quid. Kids. Anyway, Agent 47 then pings Natland's Signal app. We have much to do tomorrow, he writes. Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to kill someone. But Norwegian cops have just arrested the general at Oslo's international airport. And on his phone, they discover messages detailing a hit in the UK. I mean, they've probably just looked at Assassin EU. And then they reach out to British police. And because of Foxtrot's Iran links, counter-terror cops get involved. And now it is a race against time to stop whatever's about to happen from happening. I guess because of his run-in with customs, Natland is top of the cops' list. At 5:15 a.m. the next morning, they burst into his room and arrest him. That's where I was thinking, this would make a great magazine profile, except that's the bit that's a bit boring. They just find him immediately. Here's the BBC, which wrote a great piece on all this. Quote, as he came out of his room, he saw the green aiming dots from the firearms officer's guns on his chest, and he mimed shooting at one of them, though his guns were still under the bed. He was quickly restrained and handcuffed. Natland then pleads guilty to the firearms and ammunition possession charges, because, yeah, why not? But not guilty of criminal conspiracy. He tells jurors he's actually planned to shoot himself in the foot, adding that he had found himself in a major pickle, which, nice try at turning a British jury. But yeah, I mean, the old, I was going to shoot myself in the foot with 2 guns and 19 bullets. I don't know if it's been tried before. It doesn't work now. After a retrial at London's Old Bailey, the jury finds him guilty of the whole lot, bringing an end to a pretty amazing organised crime story. Natland will be sentenced in October, but the Foxtrot network is still going very strong in Sweden and far beyond. And yeah, we should definitely get back to it at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's the whole situation there is just crazy. I can't believe it's still going strong and this is still happening. When this has been such an issue for so long and they just can't do anything about it. Like it's insane.
Sweden.
Yeah. Next up, we're going to where I should be at right now in August, but sadly I'm not because you guys just don't support our sponsors or our Patreon enough. I am talking about Monaco, and I'm sure this story has popped up on a lot of your radars.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I'll tell you a little story about me in Monaco from years back. Let's build up that lore. People love the lore, don't they? You're going to have to drop some... you should have dropped some lore next week, actually.
I just dropped lore about being in an African civil war with like a legendary war photographer sharing a hotel room for 2 weeks. A guy who they literally made a movie about his life. And anyway. Oh, wait, are you going to tell the story now?
How did you feel? How did you feel? That's what we need to know.
I had a great time.
Yeah, of course.
It's a little frustrating, But anyway, are you telling the story now, or should I keep going?
No. Let's get on with this, and then I'll tell it down the bottom.
All right. So on June 29th, just before 9 p.m., a bomb goes off at the entrance of an apartment building called the Sun Palace, and the 3 people it takes down are Ukrainian-born property tycoon Vadim Yermolayev, who's 58, his longtime partner, and their 13-year-old son. I think they all live, right? One of them's in critical condition, no, but I think they're all alive.
Oh, really?
God, I probably should have checked that before writing the episode. Anyway, it's nasty work. It's a remote detonator device packed with bolts and buckshot left on the front steps of a residential building. In one country in Europe where the entire national product is basically like nothing bad ever happens to rich people there. Monaco's Minister of State told French television it was, quote, the first time in history to my knowledge that such an act has taken place in the principality. So who is Yermolayev? He's born in the east of the country, May 1968 in Dnipro, back then Dnipropetrovsk. The closed Soviet... Yeah, whatever, bro. Don't just showing off. The closed Soviet rocket city that in the 90s turned into a laboratory of gangster capitalism. He starts his climb in Transpo, hauling cigarettes, booze, washing powder, and shampoo in from Bulgaria and Turkey. And in 1995, founds what becomes the Olive Corporation. And Olive gets big. He builds Most City, billed as the biggest shopping center in Ukraine when it's opened in 2006. And he builds the tallest residential building in the country. He launches a vodka brand, Brandy's, 3 wineries in Crimea. He sells a bank to the Czechs, sells a quarter of a cleaning products company to Procter & Gamble. And Forbes Ukraine puts him at $220 million, which is not exactly insane oligarch territory when it comes down to it, right? This is not Abramovich or Khodorkovsky, but the guy, he does well for himself. He's maybe like a 3rd-tier oligarch, like maybe he's not buying an NBA team. He could buy he'd probably buy like 10 WNBA teams or like an MLS team,
Yeah, or a championship team like Charlton Athletic. I'm just going to get the name in there.
Should ask him to. By the late 2010s, he's traded his Ukrainian citizenship for a Cypriot passport, and by 2022, he's in Monaco. In December of 2023, Zelensky's government hits him with 10 years of sanctions over allegations his Crimean wine business kept running under Russian law after the annexation through proxies. He, for the record, denies it. Then his son, Artur, gets picked up in Cyprus and handed to Estonia, where prosecutors charged him with establishing and leading a criminal organization running scam call centers, which is a thing in eastern Ukraine and the area of Russia nearby. I think, do you guys remember, I think our last Stashhouse, we talked about that son of a gangster who was murdered in Bali in a really brutal way. And the accusation there was that the father was running scam centers as well in a similar region. So, look, we've got some shadiness there for sure, but honestly, it's not like beyond the pale, I guess you could say. I mean, it's shady, but it's not like the most egregious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not in terms of oligarchs and
worse things
stuff
have happened in Eastern Ukraine and Western Russia. Yeah.
Yeah. And among the oligarchs, right? These guys have fought wars that kill literally thousands of people over, industrial steel mills and stuff like that. So this is like,
Yeah. B tier. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So now the assassin is a pro. Sort of. It's a woman. She disguises herself as a man. She ends up being a 39-year-old Ukrainian woman, and actually, like I said, sort of a pro. She ends up letting her snake tattoo on her right arm be seen by CCTV. So she does the bombing. She escapes. She walks over the border to France, picks up a German-plated rental, drives through Italy into Germany, and on July 1st, she crosses into Ukraine. That same day, she gets to a black BMW and is never seen alive again. Her body turns up in woods near a village outside Kyiv.
Damn.
9mm casings on the ground, shot at least twice in the back of the head. So that's right, the assassin assassinated after she did the job. That's got to be like the number one workplace safety issue for assassins, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's bad lumbar support on those little hidey holes they shoot from. Probably need plenty of yoga to get over that. But this is Dark Knight stuff. Is it Dark Knight where they kill the? I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
It's a ton of movies, right? But this is like international assassin. Rich Southern European, I don't even know. Monaco's a country, I guess. Yeah, city-state. Gets killed by people hired by her after killing an oligarch. Like, this is some wild intrigue, brother. Is it criminal mafia stuff? Is it oligarch battles? Security state spy stuff? I mean, the next season of The Agency is writing itself right now. Now, it gets crazier because Ukraine catches these two guys and the prosecutors charge them with killing her. One was dismissed from the SBU earlier this year, which is similar to the FBI, and another is a serving officer of HUR, Ukraine's military intelligence. Investigators say both had been sending her money, bank transfers, and crypto. And then the newspaper Ukrainska Pravda reports the two didn't just clean up afterward. They're seen as the organizers of the Monaco job itself. The original task was a kidnapping before it became a bombing, and one admits building the bomb's initiation node disguised as a child's toy car. On July 17th, the prosecutor general releases blast footage of the suspects that they had allegedly deleted from a camera they'd set up themselves, apparently to prove to whoever hired them that the job was done. So they were middlemen, it sounds like. Okay, so wild stuff. But as of me writing, nobody has been charged with ordering the hit just yet. And the question is who wanted him hit. Theory 1 from police sources cited by Ukraine's Pravska. Revenge out of a scam call center world. Theory 2 comes from the man himself who accuses HUR and Ukrainian military intelligence, but I think he later walks back the accusation. Remember a few months ago, like I said, we had that Ukrainian mobster kid being killed and all that, scam call centers. There's a lot going on there. Anyway, going to be interesting to see how this shapes out, but it is a crazy story.
Yeah, it's nuts. I guess you forget that other stuff is happening in Ukraine as well. Like, you just think that there is one story, but there are many. And they're all not nice.
And Russia.
And Russia, yeah. Stuff happens in Russia. It's quite big. But I guess I tell my little Monaco story now. It's like, it's a bit serious. I don't know, whatever. It was actually in Monaco where I realized I had to do proper journalism because I was living in Dubai, post-financial crash. I edited this trade magazine about broadcast equipment, right? And I mean like cables and antennas and shit. And I got a business class trip to Monaco, which is really nice. And I spent the first night in Monte Carlo Casino, which is also quite good. And then the second night, I had to spend all day at an expo for satellite companies. And in the evening, did a press dinner with all these 50 and 60-year-old guys in bad suits talking about models of antennas, just getting like more and more drunk to make the conversation go away. And it was exactly the same time as the Arab Spring. All that was on the television as these guys were like hobnobbing. And so I decided right there I was going to get out and do some proper work. So I booked a load of holiday time, flew to Cairo, and that is where I got the taste for doing hard journalism. So there you go. Huge thanks to all the boring, bad-suited men of Monaco for my mediocre career.
Great story.
Yeah. Really good over a fire and a glass of Ukrainian brandy, eh?
Luckily, I have a great story for us with a headline I cannot ignore of a mob war in Israel with grenades, the mob, and Japanese food, says the channel I-24. And that's because it involves attacks on Israel's biggest fast casual sushi chain, Japonica. 44 branches. Pretty big. Now, we've done a few episodes on Israeli organized crime. We had former crime reporter Ben Hartman join us on both, I think. One was on the Jewish Israeli mafia groups, the Alperons, Zev Rosenstein, the Wolf, the Abergils. And we later did another one on the Arab crime clans.
Yeah, the car bombs, right? I'm going to say, oh God, that was really early, that one. Maybe
the car bomb wars
20.
of the Israeli mafia was the title. And it was a good episode because there are some characters. We haven't done anything on the Bedouin trafficking networks, though, which would be super interesting. But I feel like they do not Instagram their crimes. They keep it pretty close to the chest. And if you look into it, you disappear in the desert and are never seen again. So they're keeping it tight. Now, contrary to what you might think, the Jewish Israeli and the Arab Israeli crime clans don't really clash, right? In fact, they work together a lot. And as we always say, organized crime is a uniter. Sometimes I think the Arab clans get hired. They team up with one of the other families against another. They also tend not to cross each other in business, right? Different areas under different control, different rackets. The Israelis do function more internationally. They were big in ecstasy trafficking and underground casinos. When the Arab crime families, they're bigger on localized stuff, right? Protection rackets, stealing cars, smuggling. Though the Israeli crime families do their share of protection rackets. The old school stuff like garbage and some union stuff too. Not union stuff, but I don't know, some protection stuff as well. Which is why this one is interesting, because here you have an Arab crime fam, the Jerushis, clashing with the Jewish one, the Moslems. Though, as we are learning, it might not be that simple. And the numbers are absurd, right? In about a week in July, something like 15 grenade and explosive incidents, and the target getting hit over and over again was this fast casual Japanese sushi restaurant. In one overnight stretch, 7 frag grenades went off across 6 cities. And not only at restaurants, several hit residential buildings, and there was gunfire at a branch in Herzliya, an attempted arson in Haifa. The chain's own owner says 9 of his branches came under attack. And what's crazy about this is that the owner of Japonica was apparently once linked to the Moslems, one of the families, and is now linked to associates of the Jerushis. Also, the owner is the owner of Beitar Jerusalem, the soccer team, and if you know anything about that, it's interesting he's linked to an Arab crime family. So fun stuff going on.
Yeah, I think that is the club where they protested an African guy called Mohammed being signed for the team, even though he was like a Christian from Gambia.
They're like
or something.
They're like the wildest hooligan crew, I think.
They're insane.
Crew. Yeah.
Actually,
I don't think. Can they compare to like the the sort of Belgrade when you have like the Serbian team versus I don't think it compares to like that. But like
no.
They're really
they're
tough
a
European
kind of
firms, but they're also kind of they're nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I did the story years ago about Beitar Nordia, which was like a splinter club because it got like really full on with Beitar. I never managed to get that commissioned, even though I saw a game and I hung out with the fans. But yeah, they're an interesting club. I think they're still around as well, so check them out.
Yeah. So more on our contenders in this war. In one corner, you've got the Jerushi organization out of Ramla, a city in the center of Israel. 75% Jewish city, 25% Muslim. It also has a high crime rate, and the Jerushi are, according to police, one of the most powerful and violent crime families in the country. Now, it's a clan of about 2,500 people. Not all of them, you'll see, are involved in organized crime, obviously. They're descended from Libyan Muslims who settled in the region around 150 years ago, and the origin story is pretty unbelievable, right? Way back in the day, during the British Mandate, and I think even before, during the Ottoman times, Jews in the Ramah Lod area paid the Jerushis for armed protection against attacks and bayonetry. So the family's actually been in the protection business since I think arguably the late 1800s. And that, Sean, is what we call brand consistency.
That is
the
good.
criminal ring is only made up of about 120 foot soldiers. And they do, extortion, gambling, cocaine, weapons, construction, dispute arbitration, loan sharking, and at one point allegedly counterfeiting 10 shekel coins. And a good chunk of them, like I said, they're not involved in organized crime, right? They're doctors, they're lawyers, very successful. In the other corner, you have the Mosley organization, which is out of southern Tel Aviv. And they are Jews who came over mostly from Iraq and Syria, I believe, which is interesting because a lot of the criminal clans, I think, are a lot of Moroccan, but Moroccans have a huge percentage of Moroccan Jews are a huge percentage of Israelis, and some Russian in the last 30 or 40 years. But so they're a bit of an outlier. They got their start running vegetable stalls and greengrocers in South Tel Aviv, which is a rough area. Then got involved in illegal gambling operations, got major, expanded into extortion, loan sharking, casinos abroad in South Africa and Romania. And it starts with the father, and now the three sons run it: Shai, Yossi, and Eli. So they're definitely transnational, like they're big. Apparently, they first worked under the notorious Abergil family. I think, at this point, they're probably the most notorious and once most powerful crime family in Israel. I say once most powerful because they got cracked down on hard. The boss, Yitzhak, he got extradited to do 10 years in the U.S. I think he served his time there, then got sent back to Israel, where he got sentenced to 3 life sentences in the summer of 2022. But back in 2011, when Yitzhak Abergil first gets extradited to the U.S., the Mosleys went after their rackets, the Abergil family's rackets, when they were weakened. And this led to a bloody war that went international. Between 2013 and 2015, the Mosley-Abergil conflict sparked into South Africa. Bodies dropped around Johannesburg, and third brother Shai was arrested there in South Africa in 2015. He fought extradition on a string of killings and conspiracies.
I feel, did this come into the original show? I feel like this is a full episode right here.
We talked about the Abergils a lot because they're, like I said, and they've got a fascinating story, and they were active in the U.S., but I don't think we went into details in this war. But there might be something there. We can look into it. So the origin story of this new war that's breaking out is there's an organized crime figure who had been out of the country for about 2 years and was arranging his return to Israel. As part of the deal surrounding his return, and we don't know why. I mean, this whole thing sounds funny. Something like 30 million US was supposed to change hands. I think it was in crypto. The details are hazy. Members of the Jerusi family were somehow involved, and they thought the number was only around 4 million. And when they realized the real figure and saw that they just got 2 million out of it, they had reached out to the Mosleys. There was a furious phone call, and they basically told them, be thankful they got anything. Ynet, citing police, said the Mosley family handed control of an illegal betting operation to another figure, and that's what enraged the Jerusi side. So it's a different story, who thought they deserved it. So different stories, but it's just business, baby. What's also interesting is that though he hasn't been accused of orchestrating it, an Israeli crime boss named Eran Haya, who is currently locked up in Brooklyn and has been for the last 2 years, just had his cell raided because he's suspected to be involved in the conflict. Him and the Mosleys used to work together. They had a falling out. And then they tried to kill each other a few times. There was a car bomb, something in Malaysia, I think. So he hates the Mosleys. He's being investigated for involvement somehow, but we don't know what. And I'm speculating here, but he might be teaming up with the Jerushis on a situation or hiring them to take out the Mosleys. But it sounds like the Jerushis have good reasoning too to want to fight them. But yeah, they are going after each other hardcore. And when these guys go after each other, they really go after each other. An Underworld source told Channel 12, quote, "It's enough to say good morning to a criminal who's in dispute with the other side, or you showed up at a wedding, a bar mitzvah, or even had coffee with them. As far as they're concerned, you're marked." That's what happened to Abramov. And Abramov is Barak Abramov, who owns Japonica, the sushi restaurants. Police arrested Yossi Musli at his home on July 14th. He testified in court that they warned him beforehand that his name was coming up, that he had 3 or 4 days to calm the situation down or they'd move aggressively on him. His detention has just got extended by 5 days. Then on the 19th, police themselves asked for house arrest, and a judge sent him home for the rest of the week. As of right now, nobody has been indicted for any of these attacks.
I mean, this is I really want to know more about this. I mean, I suppose Israel would be a decent consumer market for ecstasy. I'm pretty sure I've taken ecstasy there before years ago, but given where it is, on the sea, is it an end point for drug routes going through Syria, Lebanon? I guess it's a bit harder now, but Central Asia and the like? I'd love to know more about those Bedouin routes as well.
So the ecstasy thing was more popular in the 90s, and that's because they had good connections in Amsterdam, and that's when ecstasy was big in the US, so they were trafficking it all over. It was a global thing. Yeah, they consume ecstasy there, but I don't think it's in insane amounts, and I don't think the market is gigantic.
It's probably not more big, right? Yeah.
No. But it's also not really an endpoint. I mean, you had they obviously drugs are smuggled there, their own networks, and you had especially in the 80s and 90s, you had hash coming in from Lebanon being smuggled. You had the Bedouin trafficking networks that were involved with it. Same thing with stuff coming up from Egypt. So there's definitely, I think, hash and stuff like that, and some drugs get in that way. But Lebanon has its own drug consumption culture and all major networks. Syria has its own thing going on, obviously, with Captagon and then other stuff going on, and into Iraq. There's meth there and stuff like that. But I think it's not too much of an endpoint. I think they have their own smuggling, but they do work together, right? You have stuff getting smuggled in from Egypt. You have stuff getting smuggled down from Lebanon. I think it's mostly hash or weed, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
That's super interesting. I want to know more about this. Anyway, back to Africa for my second one today, specifically Liberia, where cops have made their biggest cocaine bust ever near the capital city of Monrovia.
Actually, I really like Monrovia. I mean, I was there twice to cover Ebola, so it wasn't the best days there, but it's a cool town, man. And being in an African country where most people speak English is just form of English. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean the history of it is pretty incredible, right? And that's why I guess that's why it's called Monrovia. But yes, we're going to hear from a guy with a sort of almost hilariously Western name in a minute. But cops have released videos showing dozens of suitcases and boxes inside a lorry they say contained high-grade gear with a street value of over $300 million. Funnily enough, the initial claim was $370 million, but that was soon downgraded for some reason. I'm sure we will never find out. Several people were arrested in the initial raid in a town called Duazon, which is about 12 miles outside the capital. That included one Serbian national and one Spanish Colombian, just your regular guys hanging out in a small provincial town in Liberia. Since then, authorities arrested a number of local police officers, including the highway patrol chief, the head of major crimes, and the deputy commander at Monrovia's International Airport.
Someone was saying the other day that the Balkan gangs have really moved into West Africa, like Albanians and Serbs, maybe usurping the Lebanese middlemen there. Though I don't typically think of Liberia as like a major transshipment point, definitely other countries in West Africa. Also, it's crazy how much the Albanians are taking over. Like, retail sales in London and Europe into becoming the major importers to major trafficking there and now moving further down the chain. Because I think they're also in Latin America as well. Where they move there.
You get reports from cops in like Colombia and Bolivia saying that they increasingly pick up like Albanian conversations on like open lines and stuff when they get a chance, which is nuts. We keep saying we're going to do an Albanian show. We got to do one.
People love the Albanians.
They do. Yeah. As do we, if any of them are listening. As do we.
Especially the ones in the Bronx and Yonkers. Never said a bad word about them.
I love those guys in Buenos Aires as well. They're really nice guys. Yeah. Anyway, this raid. Remember Liberia? This raid has been followed up via social media posts by Liberian cops, filmed dancing in front of a pile of product worth around 19 million that was seized early June at that airport, which had been falsely declared as cubes of Maggi seasoning.
I mean, don't make TikTok dances about transporting coke, and don't make TikTok dances if you're an officer about capturing coke. Like it goes both ways,
It does. Yeah. It's I don't know, man. It's not a good look given what we just learned. Anyway, quote, "This was a serious transnational cocaine trafficking operation using Liberia's aviation and logistics system as a channel for organized crime," said Inspector General of Liberia, Gregory Coleman. But here's the Guardian for more, quote, "News of the drug bust caused uproar in Liberia and prompted President Joseph Boakai to order a combined investigation by the police and National Anti-Drug Agency. Liberia will not be used as a safe haven, transit point, warehouse, financial center, or operational base by criminal networks engaged in narcotics trafficking," he said at the time. I think it's used as all of those things quite a lot. Anyway, continues, quote, "But the delay in naming the suspects caused a row in Parliament where Coleman was summoned to a special Senate hearing and fed public speculation that the investigation was being tampered with to protect powerful Liberian citizens. Coleman has since arrested the head of the logistics firm involved. Another subject had been in China when the airport bust happened. He obviously hasn't come back to Liberia. And Coleman released the Dutch number of another suspect plus his UK home address in the city of Birmingham, which is a vibe. Then just a month later comes this 300 million bust. Huge. And busts like this have been happening for years now as West Africa becomes one of the world's key transshipment points for South American powder. We've done recent shows on Dutch kingpin Jos Lydekkers in Sierra Leone, which neighbours Liberia to the south. where he's wound himself so closely into the political scene that he's married to the president's daughter. Check that episode out. It wasn't that long ago. It's mad stuff. And Guinea-Bissau, which also neighbors Liberia, but to the north, has pretty much been a narco state going back like 2 decades. One of our early shows, that's super interesting. According to the Global Initiative, a minimum 30% of the cocaine headed for Europe passes through West Africa, so much that the region has even developed its own addiction. I mean, coke bought in some of the poorest countries on earth, that is when you know the price has truly gone down. Plus, kids all over West Africa are still getting hooked on Kush, which is a cheap and highly addictive synthetic street drug that we kind of nodded to earlier up in the show. I'm actually working on an upcoming show from my trip to Cuba, which is still giving me nightmares, which is getting flooded by a very similar, pretty gross synthetic drug during the US blockade. Here is Le Monde writing last week about West Africa, though. Synthetic drugs were long confined to Western countries. Globalization has now brought them to new territories, spreading quietly but at alarming speed. Complex supply chains linking cartels, intermediaries, and street dealers have created a market with unprecedented profitability. God, that's bad in a London accent. Kush first appeared in Sierra Leone in the mid-2010s and quickly spread to neighboring Liberia. In just a few years, the drug, which can be smoked or inhaled, is believed to have already caused tens of thousands of deaths, leaving behind traumatized cities.
Is that true though? Like, I feel like synthetics have always been all over. I mean, I don't know. I can't deep dive on it right now, but in my head that sounds made up.
Okay. No, I don't know.
I'm asking you.
I don't
it
know
sounds like is it anything new?
I mean, I'm new to this whole synthetic thing, so I don't know much about this stuff. I thought they were all smoking sort of dead people's bones. That was the story a while back, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But
and
yeah,
huffing,
maybe that's also
the whole made up Jenkum thing.
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Email us or send us loads of messages on social media. We love that. Anyway, this article at Le Monde goes on, quote, "It all begins at the ports." Yeah, no shit. "In both Freetown and Monrovia, shipments of chemical components arrive mainly from China, Southeast Asia and Europe, and particularly the Netherlands and the United Kingdom. While there are ready-to-use batches of Kush, most of it is produced locally in clandestine labs scattered throughout both countries. The ingredients are transformed into a cheap and extremely potent drug." I mean, the fun never ends in West Africa. Coke kingpins, cannabinoid crises. Let's do a Kush show soon if folks have the stomach for it, because clearly I don't know anything about it. And it'd be fun to go back to that part of the world.
I thought Kush meant weed.
I thought Kush meant weed too.
That's what it always meant. Get you make stuff up. This new generation.
God, kids.
All right. Lastly, we have some quick updates on friends of the shows. First, Kaz Hamad, a notorious Iraqi-Australian gang boss who fought the Melbourne tobacco wars. We did a show about him a few months ago. He had just been arrested in Iraq. Apparently, he just got a life sentence there, just as his 20-year-old middle manager of his firebombing operation got arrested in Australia. If you're new to the show, we did a big episode on him not 3 months ago, so I won't go over everything, but he's born in Iraq in 1984, comes to Australia in 1998 as a kid, eventually gets into heroin trafficking, goes to prison, gets deported back to Iraq in 2023, but he's already in the midst of a takeover of Melbourne's black market tobacco and cigarette market, which is worth hundreds of millions of dollars because Australia has insane taxes on tobacco and cigarettes, which jack the prices up super high. So people smuggle tobacco, avoid the taxes, and make a killing selling cigs well under the market rate. Got it? Got it.
Got it. Yeah, I've got it.
Okay.
Got it.
You guys know.
Yeah.
In January.
That could be a new that could be a new catchphrase. Got it. Simpler. Sticking on a t-shirt.
Anyway, in January, Iraqi forces arrest Hamad in Baghdad because he's not just doing cigs, he's trafficking drugs as well. So he disappears into Iraqi custody for a while. Then on July 28th, Baghdad's criminal court sentences him to life for trafficking drugs into Iraq and Australia and orders his assets confiscated. If you remember from the episode, he was fond of bragging about how untouchable he is, even on podcasts. Iraq's Judicial Cooperation Center called him one of the most wanted individuals by, quote, Iraqi and international judiciaries, tying his network to drug trafficking, money laundering, murder, kidnapping, extortion, and organized violence. Worth noting, drug trafficking in Iraq can carry death. He got life. And that's the other thing about being an organized criminal in a country like Iraq. I think he does have family connections to like higher ups there, but like if your family connection higher ups piss off the wrong person who's also a high up official, can they can come down on you. So that, again, I have no idea if that's what happened, but it could have happened. Okay. Even while in Iraqi prison, his crime group has kept it going. And in April, the Australian police launched an operation to target Kaz's boys. Still, fire bombings have continued, and a 23-year-old successor of Kaz Hamad has apparently taken charge. Deep breath, right? Was that too fast? Was I going too fast, folks?
No, you're good, man. You're good. Right. We love you.
So another friend of the pod and imprisoned gangster just got into some more trouble for ordering crimes from a prison cell, like Kaz, where he has been for a decade plus and actually built his empire from.
Are all our friends now just organized criminals? That's every friend of the pod is a murderous gangster.
Friend of the pod for like someone awful instead of being like previous podcast subject. It's funnier. Yeah. It's a good bit. Okay, so this one goes way back for us. We covered Indian gangster Lawrence Bishnoi. He was charged in the U.S. just now with a RICO charge. On July 7th, the Justice Department unsealed 3 indictments out of Los Angeles, charging 37 people across what prosecutors describe as India-based transnational crime syndicates. 17 new arrests, plus 7 defendants already locked up across California, Indiana, Georgia, Canada, and Spain, run jointly with the Canadian RCMP, and the name at the top of the list is Lawrence Bishnoi. Extortion, cocaine and meth trafficking, and ordering the June 2023 assassination of Sikh separatist Hardeep Singh Nijjar in Canada. All of it from a prison cell in India where he's been since 2014. He's 33 and he's been inside since he was 21. It's called being a go-getter, Sean. What is your excuse? You think this guy's sitting around complaining about boomers or how life isn't fair? He's not, you whiny nerds. He's out there making shit happen from prison. What is your excuse?
How long you got? No, I was looking back at the show that we did on him, 2022, man. So you think he's hustling? We're hustling, man. We're hustling.
We are hustling. Bishnoi, if you might recall from the earlier episodes, is said to have been behind the murder of Indian-Canadian gangster rapper Moosewala, who we did a full ep on. And Sean, if I'm not mistaken, he was also behind killing Indian activists in Canada, yeah?
Yeah, I think we led with the story of Nijjar. You just mentioned how the Indian state is using mobsters to kill Sikh separatists. Whole diplomatic thing, bodies drop in. Yeah, fascinating stuff. I think a couple of years ago we did that one.
Yeah, and he's fully international. They've got operations in Europe, Canada, the US, India. I think we also have talked quite a bit about one of Bishnui's top dogs, Goldie Brar, who confessed to the Moosewala hit on Facebook and later told the BBC the same thing, saying, quote, "In his arrogance, he made some mistakes that could not be forgiven. We had no option but to kill him." I think we actually talked about that on a Stashhouse, and it's kind of ironic to talk about the arrogance of making mistakes when you're confessing to murder of a very prominent person. It's kind of like, it's a little, you got some hubris yourself. Hubris yourself there, buddy.
Hubris,
yeah. I don't know why I said hubris. I know how to pronounce that word. But yeah, Indian gangsters, 0 Fs given. The DOJ's release says the enterprise routinely targeted prominent religious, social, and political leaders with violence and, quote, use these high-profile acts to terrorize and extort members of the community, and use violence to cultivate a climate of fear, in particular in India, among Indian diaspora communities worldwide, which is kind of interesting because I feel like they're already a pretty established diaspora, and usually when diaspora communities are being extorted, they're like poor and just coming up. It's part of like a recent immigration thing, always going back hundreds of years. So that means extortion of Punjabi diaspora business owners in Los Angeles and Thousand Oaks, one demand running to $5 million, and more extortion around Stockton and out in Ohio. A separate crew charged in the 3rd indictment allegedly trucked hundreds of kilos of cocaine and meth from Greater LA to the Canadian border every week. And my favorite detail of this is that 520 kilos of coke were stolen from rival traffickers around Los Angeles over about 60 months. So that means that Indian gangsters were robbing gang members in Los Angeles, which I said, like, these guys don't mess around. And it's always nice to see, stereotypes combated through heavy amounts of organized crime and violence.
It is, yes, we love that.
Yeah. I guess lastly, we should mention the Victor Bout news, which is, of course, that Bout, the merchant of death, infamous Russian arms trafficker, went on Tucker Carlson's terrible podcast to talk to Carlson about how much they both hate America or who knows what else. And by, I'm not listening to that, and I hate talking about it because I don't want to give them attention. And by attention, I mean giving them attention. I mean Tucker. Like, I don't mind giving Boot attention, but giving Tucker attention. You know, you've got one of the worst people on earth, a man who earns his living by destroying society pretty much, just toxic all around. And then you've got Victor Boot. Yeah. It's called misdirection, Sean. So they're hobnobbing on his podcast, no doubt giving the worst takes anyone in Podcastistan has ever given. Truly the bottom of the barrel, which is saying a lot for Tucker. And with that, on to the next. I've got this 3-parter coming out that I think is going to be big. Absolutely insane. Some actual original reporting. I don't think anyone has told this story in full yet, but basically it's Blow meets the Wolf of Wall Street, kind of meets Super Troopers. So get excited for that.
Yes.